Welcome back. We are back with Josh Perry, our BMX racer and, trick rider, actually, and brain cancer survivor. And what a story. This has been a fantastic story, Josh, and I love this. And we want to start with a question and a challenge for our listeners and our viewers. And so we want you to post, if you will, what brain challenges have you had and what have you been, let's say, I don't want to say feeling sorry for yourself about, but what have you been struggling with? Let's put it that way. I certainly struggled in the past with having cancer. You certainly struggled when you first heard about cancer, but you have been such a warrior in turning it around. And I want to hear, what have you guys been struggling with and what can you do to make it better? So at the end, post that for us. You can tag us or you can go to Brain Warriors Way podcast.com and we'll read that out loud and we'll read your questions. But welcome back, Josh. And this has just been a fantastic story. So you want to talk about...
Before we jump in, last night, our three of our 5 grandchildren came over to the house, and Haven just turned 1, and Haven is now walking.
Gosh, so cute.
But in the process of walking, every 7, 8, maybe 10 steps, she falls on her butt. And she doesn't get discouraged by falling on her butt. She laughs, and then she gets back up. And I imagine in learning to be a world-class BMXer, falling is part of it. And when you fall, it's not failure, as you were saying in martial arts. It's just part of the process. And to see her giggle and just be so happy with herself.
Because she's learning every time she does it, what to do better next time. So, yeah, it's great.
All right. Big lessons from your experience. I love that you went to IAN. It's called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I'm one of the teachers. It's really a great course to teach people that food is medicine. Or it's poison.
Right, or not.
Or not, yeah. Tana and I often say the weapons of mass destruction.
Everything you put on the end of your fork matters.
That ISIS has nothing on our food industry that, we can do so much better. So, big lessons. What comes to mind when you hear that question?
There's 3 that I love sharing, and I'll say those after, but you mentioned a few things I wanted to talk about, and like the whole falling aspect. I've learned that the desire to accomplish something, you don't see failure because you're so focused on the desire, and that you don't have the outside influence of society, brainwashing to a degree, but like subconsciously programming you to let's not try again because I'm afraid that what they may think, or I'm afraid you don't have those blocks. So from a young age, learning about that subconsciously, and then through BMX or any sport, injuries happen, but it allows you to progress throughout life for maybe larger events that take place. It helps you a lot. And that's what I've seen. I've had a couple friends and family members take their own lives. I've been through my own battles of depression. There's so many things, but had I not had that foundation, I don't believe I would have been able to get through them as strongly as I have because of that perspective. And so that was one thing I wanted to mention. And then IAN was more of me just freaking out of all this conflicting information I was learning, and really wanting to be the best version of myself and do the best I could. And thankfully, I got into Dr. Perlmutter's work straight before IAN, I think the month before. But I was just like, he's talking about eating more fat. These people are saying fat causes cancer and heart disease. What do I do? And so IAN was that I talked to a few people. I graduated, like, man, it's going to be great. The first thing Joshua said when we were in there was, we're not here to teach you what to think. We're here to teach you how to think. And I remember getting just pissed off, where I was like, what? I paid all this money to learn, but it ended up being great. And it made sense as we evolved. So, and that's obviously where I found Dr. Amen's work now here. So I'm really grateful for that. Now, the 3 things that I've summed my 30 years up into, and number 1, I talked about this earlier, but perspective and context is essential in life. And I argue that gratitude is the key to abundance, because whatever your belief is that gave you life and everything around you, if you're not grateful for even the pain you're dealing with, how can you expect to have more? You're a living human being. Some people don't wake up. That's a fact. We've all experienced that, but you woke up, you have the chance to make your tomorrow better. And then that leads in number 2, health is internal. I learned that the hard way. But I've learned that it's not just what's on the outside, it's not what's on the scale. I was a picture-perfect example of health to the doctors. And I thought they know all, I'm just a civilian, what do I know? And it happened to be something internally wrong with me, thanks to hitting my head. I got an MRI, I found that out. I don't suggest people have to hit their head to learn, but that's what did it for me. And then number 3 is our reality is the manifestation of our choices and thoughts, beliefs, doubt, self-talk, food, sleep, or lack thereof, like all these things. Literally, our reality is based on the choices we make every single day. And it may not happen right away. It may not be easy, but if we want to create a new reality to live in, then we have to make changes. Otherwise, it's just, to me, it's not possible.
Absolutely true. I love that. I also believe that I believe people have to be careful. We just did a podcast on language, because what you're thinking, it all starts with your thinking, like you just said. The decisions you make, what you think leads to the decisions you make, and that becomes your reality. But when you put words to it, it becomes your experience. When you label something, it becomes the experience you have. And so when you think something and then you just start saying it over and over and over, it seals it. It becomes the experience you had, right? And it may not have even been that, but you labeled it that, and now you've just sealed it. So how we say things.
Dr. Joe Dispenza or Nicole LaPera.
Yeah, you know Dr. Joe Dispenza really well.
Yeah, Joe and I are friends.
Yeah.
Joe has referred many patients to the clinics.
So I got into his workshop about 3 years ago, and that's when I started learning about subconscious and like all these things. And I was like, man, like at first I was like, I don't understand any of it. And then now I'm just so into it. I'm like, it doesn't matter what someone wants to talk about. I'm always thinking like, well, I wonder what their experience has been to lead into that thought or that program and things like that. So
yeah, I think your subconscious doesn't have a sense of humor, so you have to be careful what you put there. So be careful how you talk to it.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned thoughts creating our emotions and our experiences, and I know Dr. Joe talks a lot about that. But something a friend shared with me that's helped me a lot, and I've shared with other people, is something called the TEAR method, and it stands for thoughts, emotions, actions, and results, or I like to put reality. So if you start with an emotion, stress or fear, whatever those are common. What are your thoughts that are triggering that emotion? That's creating your emotional state. Right. That's leading you to taking action one way or the other, manifesting the result. So if you don't like the reality you have, well, let's change our thoughts, create a new emotional being. Instead of sitting on the couch or being in bed sad for ourselves, we'll get up and take an action. Right. You can't help but being the outcome. That's just something that's helped me a lot. Whenever you mentioning your go-to, that's just one of mine that I love sharing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yep.
So when you saw your scan, what was that like, going to the Atlanta clinic, seeing Dr. Munir Ali? Walk me through that a little bit.
So Dr. Ryan Lowry and I, we had a lot of chats beforehand. We were going over what we expected to see. We were prepared. And then going through the initial evaluation, that they call like the breakdown and debrief after all the scans, we did a third additional scan with exogenous ketones. But really, like, here it is, like that anxious excitement feeling. And then my thoughts were, it wasn't as bad as I thought. And Dr. Ali explained a lot of the changes I've made in the last 4 or 5 years have probably helped that, of course. But it still was like, man, like seeing a hole in your brain, even though it's not a legit hole.
Right, it feels like a hole, right?
You're like, you can't help but feel crushed a little bit. You're like, man, this is real.
That's how I felt, yeah. I'm a perfectionist.
It wasn't bad. So it was a mixture of feelings, and I prepared myself. I've seen a lot of the different scans, and I was like, all right. But still,
but see, that's good, because that's the thing that makes you want to be better. That's the athlete in you. That's the thing I can improve on. I mean, that's what I do. It's like I'm always looking for the thing I can do better. How can I like keep making it better? And that's not a bad thing. So as long as you don't let it get you discouraged, that's okay. So,
well, I tell people whatever we see is good news, because you have what you have. And if we can make it better, if it's awesome, just keep doing what you're doing. But if it's not awesome, we need to ramp up our rehabilitation and our training.
And it gives us a map.
And so that's what's exciting.
It's basically giving us a starting point of how to move forward. Ryan and I were filming just like takeaways beforehand, like what do we expect, thoughts. And I was like, man, like I'm scared, but I know this is going to be great because it's going to show me really what's going on, and then we can make changes thereafter to help improve. So
exactly,
you can't go somewhere you want to go unless you know where you're starting.
Exactly,
and just helps with that.
And what changes did you make since seeing your scan?
So started with supplements, took some out that weren't doing as much as I thought, but then really added in high doses of omega-3 fish oil on the Brain MD brain and memory power boost. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of lab work after, which I've never done besides just full lab work from the doctor that I went to. So I looked at a lot of different things. My vitamin D was a little bit lower than we expected, and testosterone was relatively high. I think it was 1100 at the 0 to 900 scale.
Wow.
So
So someone who's had multiple traumatic brain
Yeah, that's
injuries,
actually
that's
unusual.
unusual.
Yeah.
That's what we were really interested in. And then to see my free T3, I think was a little low, but I was still learning a little bit more about that with my eating patterns and things. But for the most part, everything was
That
was
could have been
fairly
from the head
great,
injury too.
despite what we expected from the traumatic brain injuries and tumors. So yeah, just adding in some supplements like that. I'm also using the Dopa Plus supplement because learning with me and ADHD and prefrontal cortex deficiency and blood flow and energy has me seeking out stimulants all the time, and makes sense why I can flip and spin at the same time within 2 seconds and know where I am.
Right.
But also inhibits me in other areas. So yeah, it wasn't too many changes that I wasn't already doing. It was more just like getting detailed lab work and detailed supplements.
And so fine-tuning.
And what about hyperbaric oxygen? Did he recommend that for you?
Yes, I need to follow up with, I forget his name, that Gigi connected me with to reach out about getting that sort. Because there was a debate a little bit about hyperbaric oxygen and the 4 tumors I still have, and that being an issue. But I think we're being on the side it may not be an issue. So that's the next step, is getting the hyperbaric oxygen, which I've never done before. So
Yeah, I would for sure. I'd check with your neurosurgeon, see if he has a take on it. But we've seen hyperbaric oxygen significantly increase blood flow to the brain. And what do you think the percentage of ADD in BMX bikers?
Maybe awkward. I just got to leave out that 5% for the one-offs. But yeah, it's up there.
It's I would suspect because in a way, in order to do some of the tricks you've done, that you have to have, not impulsive, because I to do what you've done and not die, you have to be pretty disciplined, but to want to do that,
Excitement seeking for sure.
to want to do that, it's sort of like jumping out of a helicopter.
So I'm going to assume they probably told you need to like not get your head rattled much anymore if you want your brain to be good.
Yeah, and it was 2 months ago that we had the scan, and we go back in October for a 6-month follow-up scan. So I decided to take that whole 6 months off of riding, because although I don't compete anymore, I'm still very able to maintain that level of riding, and I enjoy it. But now I'm like, all right, for my own health, of course, but then also so we don't mess up the results. Let's take some time.
So now it gives you something to shoot for, right? But
I'm in a new movie called Quiet Explosions, and one of it goes through 3 of our patients, and one of them, Sean Dollar, is a world record holder for big wave surfing, and 62-foot wave.
Crazy.
And he did some things between his first scan and his follow-up scan, but his follow-up scan wasn't better, which made him and I really ramp up his treatment. And he's just been so grateful. For him, it was hormones that he really got dramatically better after that. So the next scan is just what it is based on what you're doing. Our hope, obviously, is it's better. But if it's not, it just teaches us, okay, we need to be serious, even more serious, about what we can do to rehabilitate your brain.
Well, and one thing that no one talks about, and this is the neurosurgical ICU nurse in me, I've taken care of multiple people, actually several people who, one was motocross, but 2 BMX bikers who broke their necks. They had helmets on, but they don't protect you from compression fractures, right? So when you land on your head can snap backwards, or you can land and it can actually do a compression fracture if you go straight down. And one was a quadriplegic, one had to wear a halo. So they don't protect the neck, huh?
Was one of them Stephen Murray?
I don't remember. This was a long time ago.
In 2007, I was there at the event where he landed on the back of his neck and broke his spine. He's been for the most part, head down, paralyzed.
But this was like 16 years ago. So, so it was a long time ago.
All right. When we come back, in fact, what was the question that you wanted everybody to ask?
So if you have struggled with something you've heard about your health, and it's really, you took a big hit from it, what have you struggled with, and how can you now turn that around and become better? So with the information you've heard, we want to hear from you. What have you really struggled with? I know when you heard cancer, you said your world just began to collapse. They told you might die. what kind of news did you get that really did you fall? You fell flat on the mat, right? Like I talk about in martial arts. And how can you get back up? How can you now make that become purposeful with that? Or how can you at least turn it around and, become better with that? Go to brainwarriorsway.com, leave us a message, or you can tag one of us on Instagram or Facebook. So Tana Amen or Daniel Amen, leave us a message. We want to hear from you. We want to read it. We love your questions. So we want to talk
We'll
to
be
you
right
guys.
back.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.